Hey, what's up guys? You can Gypsy back here today. Going to be going over my recent run in the TokenMinorities March Madness draft tournament that happened a couple of days ago, and I know a few of my friends wanted to see how I went in that tour, and wanted to see my games in that. So going to be going over my pool play, and then if I advance from pools, it's going to go on into the brackets. So for anyone who doesn't know about this kind of tournament, it's basically like a massive tournament held by the TokenMinorities channel, Jolt and company, and it happens once a year, and they also hold a summer showdown tournament. It's a great way for people who want to get kind of some recognition in the format to enter, and really just have a go. Maybe get to play some big names in the format. It's not quite the same experience as playing in a draft league. It's a bit more trivial in the sense that it's 8 mon with rushed prep in the bracket rounds. It's not a very realistic experience of what it's like in a draft league, but it's definitely a fun experience. And pool play, in my opinion, is a lot of fun. I think 8 mon is it's a very different beast to the regular sort of 12 mon draft league format. So it's a good way to mix it up and have a bit of fun, a couple of times a year. So definitely recommend, if you guys are interested in trying this out at some stage, definitely go and give it a look, because the TokenMinorities, they do advertise it well and truly in advance, and there's an open division where if you're not an all-star, you can join as an open applicant, and potentially fight your way up into the bracket round where you have a chance to face guys like me and other players in the all-star division. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to be going over my pool play now anyway. That's enough of an introduction. And so first up in my pools, I played a guy called Rufus. I didn't really know much about him. I think he's a PPL player or something like that, but he had a pretty interesting team. Just quickly going over the team that I drafted for this tournament, we have Landorus T, as you guys can see here. Mew, my picks were Lando T, Mew, Mega Guard, Scizor, Rotom Wash, Volcarona, Munchlax, and Rosalie. So pretty interesting team. I did want Katana, but unfortunately that was taken a couple of picks before me, so I settled on Sizz, which is a very solid mon on the team. Pretty fun team. He's that nice double bug offense. It's definitely not the greatest team for 8 mon, but it's pretty fun. A couple of nice little baby pokes in here, and I managed to get Mew and Lando T, and obviously Guard, which are 3 of my favorite mons in the format, so that's pretty fun. But definitely an interesting team. And my opponent Rufus has he's got the Megalop, Blacephalon, Zygarde, the Serp, the Finny, the Steelix, the Umbreon, and the Garbodor. This looks a bit confusing. This is just the way I build for matches and shit. This is just a little bit messy, but there's a reason for it. So these are the 6 that I'm expecting him to bring. The Blacephalon, the Lop, definitely coming. Zygarde, you can't really go wrong. It works in a lot of matchups, especially versus my team. I don't actually have an Arrows resist. I have plenty of mons that can check it, but as far as resist, I don't have one. And then Finny is solid for Volcarona, and Steelix is his only Hyper Voice switch in. So apart from Garbodor, which doesn't really count, but and his only rocker as well. So I am expecting this team, and this is the team that we're rocking with for this match. So starting off, we have Orlando T. He has no flying type, so Scarf DQ is a late game win con. Superpower Oko's Lop, Hidden Power Ice helps me check Zygarde. I am very fat on this Lando, so I function as a this should be Maxwell. It was in the game. I don't know why it defaults to this on Showdown, but so this Lando pretty solid here. U-turn for momentum. Superpower is very clutch for the Lop. As I mentioned, in Hidden Power Ice eases the pressure that Zygarde places upon my team. Eases Mew's job. This is Zygarde check. So the next we have is a nice Trick Room, Bulky Guard. Solid win con in the late game if he has only fast mons left. I can Trick Room up, can take any hit from Zygarde, and proceed to just plow through him with Hyper Voice and Hidden Power Ground. Hidden Power Ground because I don't want to miss Focus Blast. And that's pretty much it. And next we have the God Munchlax. Here, nice offensive trapper. Blacephalon is a threat to my team, so Munchlax just traps it and kills it. There's nothing Blacephalon can literally do to beat Munchlax. Even if it wisps me, I just spam Pursuit, hit him with an EQ. Self-destruct is only here if I need to blow on it like a Zygarde, like a coiling Zygarde, or something, but Ice Punch literally does the same amount of damage. Ice Punch actually 2-KOs Zygarde, which is insane. And yeah, Munchlax is not too weak, especially with the spread. So then we have Roselli, nice little cup defensive core here. This checks Superior and Finny. It's amazing. T-Spikes and Spikes are pretty nice versus his team. If he doesn't bring Garbodor, then Toxic Spikes are going to be clutch. Otherwise, Spikes literally hit everything. As I mentioned, he doesn't have a flying type, so if he wants to defog with Finny or Serp, he's going to have to get T-Spiked, Toxic in the process. So Sludge Bomb and Synthesis is pretty important here. Then we have a Taunt Ice Beam Psyshock Mew. Taunt Psyshock allows me to beat Carmine Finny 1v1. Ice Beam for the Zygarde, and yeah, Psyshock's really nice for the Lop as well as the Blacephalon. It gets 2-KO by Psyshock. And then last one we have here is the Helmet offensive Sizz. So yep, I noticed that Rufus has a tendency to spam Fake Out with Lop, even in situations where he doesn't need to. So that can be punished with Rocky Helmet, as well as my Mew also checks Lop, obviously, and my whole team actually checks Lop quite nicely, except for Munchlax, the only one that gets O-code. So, yep, ST Superpower and Bullet Punch is all I need for his team. So that's going to be the team for this game. I'm going to pause it and I'm going to jump into the match. Alright guys, so we're back with the match, and as you can see, he opted not to bring the Finny, which means his team is extremely weak to Volk, which implies his Blacephalon could well be scarfed with Smackdown or Hidden Power Rock or something. Either way, his team is extremely weak, so maybe he has a lure, or maybe he just didn't respect the Volk bring here. But either way, yeah, my defensive core is looking to put in the work. So, like I said, no ground immune. So yeah, Earthquake is very solid on Lando, especially if I can remove Serp or get it poisoned with T-Spikes. So, gonna lead off here. He is gonna lead off with Serp, as I do lead off with my Mew. I led Mew because Taunt beats a variety of his leads, so both his hazard setters are nice. If he wants to lead Blacephalon, I literally trap it with Muck, Munchlax there. So Munchlax is actually a far better Blacephalon check than Muck is, funnily enough. So yep, I'm going to switch out here, going to go into my Roselli. He's going to go for this sub right here. He shows sub lefties, so he's sub lefties Leaf Storm, Hidden Power Fire most likely. If he's Leech, then yep, my Roselia literally just checks it, and he's gonna go for Leaf Storm, and that does 6.9%. So yep, as I'm just gonna break his sub with Sludge Bomb here, and now I'm gonna set up Spikes because he's switching out here 100%. He's now gonna go out to Garbodor here, and this turn he is gonna switch out to Lop, expecting my double, I suppose, or wanting to scout for something. I'm not sure. Maybe he expected me to go, I guess, Lando there and like his Ice Punch Lop or something like that. Couldn't really tell you. But I'm gonna get up a T-Spike. I live anything from Garbodor, even like a banded Gunk Shot, because I am really bulky, and he's obviously gonna be defensive just based on the bring here, like a Spike stacking defensive variant. Now he's gonna make the double out to Lop, and he's gonna take a round of Spikes, which is really nice. Yeah, I get my T-Spikes up, which is going to force the Garbodor to come in at a later stage in the game to remove them. So now I'm going to go into my Mew here, as he does go for the return, and that's going to do 48, revealing he is Adamant, and this Mew is EV to live 2 Adamant returns from Lopunny. So yeah, the defensive investment coming in clutch. I am just going to Roost up here, as he is now going to switch out to Garbodor. So questionable switch. Had I gone for Psychic or Psyshock, he would have been 2-KO'd, and regardless, Garbodor is just checked by Mew anyway, but he wanted to remove the T-Spike, I suppose, for Umbreon in the back, so I can understand that, as now I am just going to go for the Soft Boiled. Now he's going to switch out to Umbreon there, so this turn I'm going to Taunt, which stops this Umbreon or the Garbodor from playing any hazard games or status games, as now I can just go out to my Gardevoir here. He's going to go for the Foul Play, and that does 0, and yeah, this turn I can just click Hyper Voice here. Could have gone for like Hidden Power Ground predicting Steelix, but I'm not really in a situation where I need to. Hyper Voice is just really nice, and Hyper Voice into Hidden Power Ground killed a non-Spadef variant of Steelix, so if he was like just a Fizz Def or an offensive variant, he died anyway there. So I'm just going to stay in here in Hidden Power Ground. I actually have enough defense to live a max roll Heavy Slam with this bulk on guard, so yeah, Fat Guard is best guard. As you're going to see, he is actually going to go for the EQ here. So yeah, he's looking in a pretty rough spot, because now guard just comes in and clicks Hyper Voice every time it comes in on Umbreon there. So yeah, he's in a pretty tricky spot here, as now Lop is going to come in and take that spike. Going to go into Sizz here. As he goes for the return, he's going to take 27 and he's going to take the helmet damage. Now I'm going to pivot into my Mew here to scout for the Fire Punch, or if he wants to go for High Jump Kick, I'll take very little from that. So I'm going to go into Mew as he does reveal Fire Punch, and he's actually going to crit burn me here, which is pretty annoying but pretty funny at the same time, because it's more annoying for him really, because lefties negates the burn on my Mew, and honestly, like I'm special attacking, obviously, like it doesn't affect me, but synchronize bouncing back the burn to the Lop, and yep, his Lop is literally just it's useless now essentially, unless he has Heal Belt on his Umbreon. There's nothing his Lop can really do. His Umbreon is going to come in here, and I am just going to Psyshock this turn, as yep, there's very little this Umbreon can do. And right here I'm going to Taunt, as the Umbreon just goes for the foul play, and then only does 35. So yeah, it's still doing a nice chunk, but I can Roost up this turn, as he is just going to hit me with a foul play there, just getting to a little bit more health, which could be useful for the Lop. Yep, now I am going to switch out to my Roselli, as he's going to go for the foul play, and yeah, we take nothing from that, and I can really just fish for Sludge Bomb poisons versus that Umbreon if I want to, but I want to get all my spikes up, as now I am going to go into Lando on his Garbodor. He's going to go for the Gunk Shot and poison me here, so yeah, we're getting all the secondary effects. You know, what's different, what's changed, but now I am just going to go for EQ with Lando, and that does 35 to Umbreon, revealing he is a Fizz Def Umbreon, predominantly Fizz Def, like he took that really well. I'm an adamant Lando, so yeah, his Umbreon is just a free switch for my Roselli every time. I can just synth up and proceed to set up spikes, and yeah, there's really little he can do, because Garbodor is getting chipped by spikes. He has Black Sludge, so he's getting a little bit of recovery, but it's yeah, ultimately he's taking more damage and hazards, and I force him out every turn with Mew or Lando. So I'm going to skip through these turns because it is a bit slow here, as he does set up a T-Spike, but that's yeah, pretty irrelevant, because even if he goes into Umbreon here on my Mew's Psyshock, I can always just go out to Roselli to soak up the T-Spikes, as he's gonna stay in here and gunk a couple of times, essentially sacking off his Garbodor to the Mew here, which is going to mean that everything is going to get poisoned by T-Spikes if I get a layer up. So he's going to go into Umbreon now, as I do fire off a Psyshock, and this turn I can just go hard out into Roselli, wall this thing, and yeah, set up a T-Spike, I believe, as he does now switch out into Garbodor. Maybe I Sludge here. No, I do set up a T-Spike, so if I get off a Sludge Bomb, if I get off any damage, this Garbodor dies to Spikes the next time it comes in. So going out into Mew is my play every time. He goes for the Hidden Power Fire there, I assume that's Hidden Power Fire, trying to catch my Sizz. I had no reason to go Sizz there. I'm always going to go Mew on this thing, as Gunk Shot, yep, does not 2-KO me. And now I can just knock him out with a Psychic, but he opts to sack off his Lop, which is going to allow his Garbodor to come back in on Spikes and soak up the T-Spike, but die in the process. So yeah, it's looking pretty bleak for him here. The Blacephalon's going to come in right now, and yeah, Big Papa Munchlax is going to come in here. He's going to take 19 from a Fire Blast and bop him with the Pursuit. So I have like no HP on this, very little Spidef. I have like a ton of, I'm like max attack with a ton of defense, and we only took what, 19% from that Fire Blast. That's pretty insane. As now Serp's going to come in here. He's going to hit me with the Leaf Storm. We're going to take 25 from that, and proceed to 2-KO him here with the Ice Punch. Yeah, so Munchlax taking on his 2 special attackers with ease, and yeah, that's gonna be Munchlax finishing off. Now I'm gonna go out to my Roselli here and just 1v1 this Umbreon, because differential could potentially be important in pools. I didn't actually go into who is in my pool before I started commentating this, but I've got a pretty solid pool. I've got Hykertoad, obviously Rufus in here. I've got a guy called Jack, who is a pretty solid, I think he's a Hive player from what I understand. He's definitely a solid player, and also Omega Jolteon, good old Omega, is in my pool as well. So very strong pool, very solid players in there. So yeah, differential is always important in this kind of tour. So if I want to clinch first place, or if I just want to get out of my pools and make it into brackets, differential could be important. So yeah, we 6-0 there with my LC Mons, and that's going to be my game 1. I'm going to pause it and we're going to jump into the next. Alright guys, so we're back here with the match up against Jolteon, Omega Jolteon, or the team builder I guess, and yeah, Omega has a really solid team. He's got Mega Kang plus Mew plus Gren, which in my opinion is a very solid offensive and sort of defensive core as well. And then he's got Sand, Gigalith with Exca, and a nice Decidueye to top it off. Muck and Blaziken, yeah, they're decent. Blaziken is here to also check the Scizor, I suppose, but even the Volcarona if I don't carry coverage for it. So yeah, he's got definitely a threatening team. Not the fastest team outside of Gren and Sandrill, but as you guys can tell, like I've got a very slow team. It caps out at base 100, so this is probably not what you want to do in a draft tour like this. But I'm pretty comfortable with this kind of speed tier, so it's not the end of the world. Though having a sort of higher speed tier mon is definitely beneficial, and I would recommend going up to something like that. But yeah, we've got a pretty fun team here. This is probably one of the funnest teams I built for this tour, in my opinion. And I'm going to jump into it now. So we have we've got the Mega Guard here, a nice Wish Protect Encore, and Hyper Voice, obviously just obligatory stab to hit his team. The only thing it doesn't hit hard is Muck and Excadrill, and I do expect him to bring a fat Exca if he does bring it, or an offensive Exca. So Muck, I don't really think is going to come to this game, and even if he does bring it, I've got ways of checking that. So yeah, Wish is important because he's got pretty threatening special mons on his team in Gren, which does threaten my team a lot. Greninja, just pretty much Greninja. I guess like Nasty Plot or Carmine Mew, and that's why I do have Encore as well. But yeah, Greninja mainly is a big threat to my team, and because of my slow speed tiers, he can afford to run Modest, which yeah, makes Gren a big threat. So yeah, this very bulky guard can take 2 Hydros from Mew. It's from Gren. It's a roll for specs Hydro to a KO, but it's well and truly in my favor. I can wish up on that. If he's Life Orb, I can wish Protect, Life Orb Storm, and pass wishes to the rest of my team. So the next one we have here is Specs Volcarona. So yeah, QD Volcarona, not the greatest bring here, just because he does have he's got Sand to check it. He has Gigalith, which checks it really nicely. Spidef Gigalith with Sand is a very solid answer to Volcarona. And because I'm not Z-move, I can't run like Bloom Doom. So, but Specs Volcarona, what it does is it punches holes for the rest of my team. To really put in the work. And as you're going to see, there's a bit of a pattern in this team of momentum. So you see U-turn on there. Say for instance, in a situation where he brings in his Spidef Gigalith to check my Volcarona, I can U-turn on this, switch in, and go out into my Landorus. Because as you can see here, just like last game, Omega Jolteon doesn't have a ground immunity. So unless he brings Balloon Drill or something like that, he doesn't have a way of switching in and being immune to Earthquake from Landorus T. So we've got nice specs Volcarona. Bug Buzz is a 3 KO on especially defensive Gigalith, so if he switches in once, the next time Volt comes in, he's no longer safe. And Bug Buzz is pretty nice versus his team, honestly. Flamethrower, just very solid coverage in tandem with it, and Hidden Power Ground allows me to have a move that hits both Gigalith, Excadrill, Blaziken, and Muck all at the same time, so I don't have to pick and choose there. I can just click mindlessly the Hidden Power Ground if it comes down to that. But next one we have here is the Scarfed Lando. Punishment is here to punish Mew. If he's a Carmine variant and wants to set up multiple Carmines, it's stronger than Knockoff. And if he's a Z-move, Mew, he was actually Z Excadrill in this, so but yeah, Punishment is a nice deck on Lando. We brought that back in ITL, and yeah, I think that was the first Punishment Landorus I actually saw in the format. So yeah, it's good to use this thing again. And Superpower again is just really nice for the Mega Kang. Another bulky Lando here, even though I am Scarfed offensive, the bulk on it is definitely appreciated for taking hits from stuff like Exca in Sand, and yeah, the Mega Kang as well. So then we have my Rocky Helmet Defog Rotom here to provide momentum with Volt Switch, like my past 2 mons. Defog Rocks for Volk, and Hydro and Pain Split, and Volt pretty much here to check the Gren if he does bring it, as well as the Blaziken nicely. And yeah, it's a secondary buffer to Mega Kang, punishing it with Rocky Helmet. So the next one we have here is my physically defensive, very Fizdef Mew, pretty much here to punish Kang. U-turn on predicted switch outs or mons that Mew can't actually threaten, and U-turn into Kang, U-turn into Volk, Lando, Rotom, or Guard, or Sizz. EQ just hits his team. Like I said, he has no EQ immune. EQ is very solid. A taunt allows me to check a slightly slower Mew, as well as like a Gigalith that wants to get a Rocks or Toxic, and also Curse Mark, which could be a bit annoying. So, and then the last one we have here is my Banded Scissor. So Banded U-turn with Defog again, double Defog here for the Volk. Volk's pretty important, and double Defog is nice to keep hazards off the field. As you guys can see, I don't have Rocks of my own here, but to substitute for that, I have a lot of breaking power with my Landorus and my Volcarona and my Banded Scissor. So nice specs, Scarf and Band, pretty fun team. And yeah, I'm going to pause it and we're going to get into the match and see how it went. Okay, so we're back with the match, and as you can see, my man Omega opted to bring the Blaziken over the Muck or the Gigalith, so no Sand. I don't have to deal with Sand offense. And yeah, his checks to Volcarona look pretty few and far between. He could be like a really defensive Blaziken, like especially defensive potentially. But even then, that gets bopped by Psychic. So yeah, I'm not really sure what his Volk answer is. Perhaps he intends to check it offensively, which is definitely a viable option, but maybe he just thought the likelihood of me not bringing Volk because he has Gigalith was pretty high, so he opted not to worry about it. But yeah, he's definitely brought some threats, Grand Kang, Mew, all the threats, and I'm expecting his Decidueye to be bulky and probably a Spit F Exca, so we're going to jump into it. He is going to lead off with his Blaziken as I lead off with my Lando here, so yeah, pretty nice, pretty solid matchup for me just right off the bat. I am just going to go for the U-turn here, as he does make the switch out into his Mew, so we get some nice damage off on Mew, and it does tell me that he is pretty defensive, as now Volk can come in here, and yeah, Volk's inside, so the U-turn chain has started, and yeah, now I can just click, I think I click Flamethrower here, as he does bring in his Blaziken, and that does 45% to Blaziken, so Blaziken is getting chipped, which is really nice for my Banded Scissor on the back. Now I am going to go into Rotom here, as he does make the double out into his Gren. So Gren covered me switching, I guess, there into my Mew or my Landorus if they were defensive responses to Blaziken. So good play by Omega, but yeah, we make the switch out to my Rotom, which covers that, and he's going to go for the Specs Dark Pulse here. Really unfortunate. He flinches me here as I Volt. I Volted, which would have put this thing in range of Banded Scissor, Banded Scissor's U-turn. And also EQ or U-turn from my Mew. So yeah, pretty unfortunate, but that's Dark Pulse. As now I am going to be forced to switch out to my Gardevoir, confirming that he is Specs just from that damage on Rotom, because I'm pretty mixed defensive on Rotom. So I had a ton of Spit F. I could take non-Specs Dark Pulses from Rotom with ease, from Gren with ease on Rotom. So that gives me some good information. As I'm going to have to now wish up with my Gardevoir. So yeah, that flinch definitely set me back a bit, but he's now going to go for Spirit Shackle here with his Decidueye, so I'm going to get my guard nice and healthy, and now I am going to switch out to my Landorus this turn, as his Decidueye is going to go for the U-turn. So the nice thing about this is, like, unless his Gren is Specs Water Shuriken and he gets like 5 hits, max rolls, there's no way he kills Lando here. And because I am faster than his Gren, I am going to be able to get hit off, and I could potentially catch his Gren, expecting me not to be scarfed. So I'm going to go for Superpower here, as I catch his Exca. They're predicting maybe a U-turn from my Gren. But yeah, Trouble isn't going to save him from the second Superpower, even though I'm at -1 now. It's still going to knock him out. So I'm going to make the switch out into my Scizor here, as he goes hard into Decidueye. So I really wanted to go Volk there, as that covered his Decidueye and his Mew. But Scizor was the safer play, because if he did stay in an EQ there, my Volk would have taken a ton of damage. And if he Rock Slided, if he for some reason Rock Slided there, he would have killed Volk. And going Sizz awards me momentum and a very big hit off with U-turn as well, which is what Volcarona did, and it also gets big damage off on the Mew or Decidueye, which were going to be his switch-ins to Superpower there. So that was the reason I went Sizz there. Obviously Volk could have come in there, but the safer option and the kind of more effective option was Scizor, because it does let me get big chip with the U-turn off and force out this Decidueye in the same turn. So I'm going to go for U-turn here, as I do get the slow U-turn out, as Blaziken is going to come in here and take absolutely nothing. He takes 17 from a banded adamant U-turn. So yeah, that is a fat Blaze, but now something's going to drop, as I just kill him off with a Flamethrower. So now, yeah, Banned Bullet Punch is looking really nice in the late game. Would have been really solid if I got this Volt switch off on the Gren, because it would be in range of Bullet Punch now, and that would mean that literally he's only switching to Bullet Punch's Excadrill, which is now at half and gets 2 KO'd, so pretty unfortunate, but yeah, that's where we are in this game at this point. So now I'm forced to switch something into this Hydro from Gren, and I'm going to go into Rotom. He could potentially miss Hydro, which would be really nice, and because I do take that 1 Specs Hydro, if he misses another here, I can get a Volt Switch off, but he hits his second Hydro, so Rotom is going to go down. He was the sacrifice. It does stall out a couple of Hydros from Gren, which is nice, because that means there's less Hydros for my guard to take, so yeah, that's definitely a positive, but this turn I am going to go for the U-turn, I believe, with my Landorus, as he does go into his X to sack it off there to the potential superpower. Now I can go into my Mew and go for the EQ this turn, as he is going to go into his Mew. So yeah, his Mew is actually going to reveal to be a bit faster than my Mew as he gets the rocks up there. So rocks are kind of tricky, kind of annoying for my team, but I do have the double defog, so it's not the end of the world. Even though, you know, Rotom went down, I still have defog on the Scizor here, so I am going to reveal the defog here as he makes a switch out into Excadrill. So the reason I felt he'd switch there was because it's not worth risking my Scizor just killing his Mew with U-turn. He needs Mew to check Landorus. Like, that's his best response to Scarflando at this stage in the game, and his Excadrill really isn't doing much, so sacking Exca was the play there, and I do stand by it. Like, I agree with Omega making that play there, as yeah, he's playing really well, but I am just going to go for the defog here, and this turn I can switch out into my Landorus, as he is just going to fire off the Toxic, I believe, here. So yeah, this turn I can, I believe I can just click U-turn and switch out into my Scizor, as now I will just be able to go for another U-turn with my Sizz, as his EQ is going to be weakened from the Intimidate. So it's now a 5-4, and I'm just going to go into my guard, because it's the only thing that prevents his Greninja from coming in and clicking Hydro versus my team. I could have gone Landorus, but the problem with that is it invited in Decidueye, and if I went for a fast U-turn, it wouldn't have killed his Decidueye. He could have U-turned on whatever I U-turned into and brought out Gren, which puts me in the same spot. And had I gone for punishment, he could have made the switch out into Kang there, and I'd be left in a tricky spot there. So going out into guard covered that. It also covers his Mew, as I can just go for the encore him into what I thought he would do is soft boiled here, because he really does need his Mew healthy to be able to check my team effectively. And I really think he probably should have soft boiled there, but getting up rocks is going to limit my Volk coming in, which is going to be nice. Definitely nice for him. What Rocks also does is that it puts guard in guaranteed range from 2 Hydros, so Rocks was potentially the play there from Omega, so yeah, definitely can understand why he made that play, as now I am going to go for the Hyper Voice, and this is going to reveal to be a Sulfur's Decidueye, so good information to have. I am going to go for the Protect here, just to maybe force him into a situation next turn where he doesn't want to click U-turn. As now I am going to go into my Landorus here, as he does make the play of staying in and going for another Spirit Shackle, so that's nice. This turn I can just go for the punishment, as he actually makes a switch out into his Kang, so a nice play by Omega. Had I U-turn there, well, I guess maybe he was expecting me to be knockoff there, and going into Kang covered that nicely, but now I can go into my Mew, and his Facade is going to do very little to Mew, and he's actually going to take more damage from the Rocky Helmet that he dealt to me with Facade, so that's pretty nice. I can go for the U-turn here, getting momentum on the Decidueye, and now I can bring my Specs Volk in here and fire off hit. So he's going to sack off his Mew to the Flamethrower, and that's pretty nice for my Landorus. That's one less switch in, but now in comes the Beast Greninja, and yeah, Hydra is going to take out my Volk. Volk's done its job though. I do have like a few different ways of checking the Decidueye. Mainly my Scizor's Bullet Punch and my Landorus's Punishment or U-turn, as now I can just go for the I believe I go for the Wish this turn. Oh no, I have a voice there, so I have a voice because it 2-KO'd Decidueye at that range of health, and Decidueye was probably going to be his switch into guard there, but he actually chooses to sack off Kang, which is pretty nice, because now Mew isn't under as much stress. As now I am just gonna go for the Protect here again, wanting to see if he wanted to make a double, but him going for U-turn is good because it catches me going into anything and it brings in his Gren safely. But he could have also hard switched into Greninja there, which would have covered me going hard out into something like Scizor or Landorus there, my Scarfed Lando, because Scarfed Lando, like, had he gone for Spirit Shackle there, had he gone for U-turn and I had stayed in with Guard and wished, he'd be in a pretty rough spot with Gren, because the U-turn would have done very little to my Guard because he's like max Spadef Assault Vest or something like that, and I would have a Wish in the air and I could just click Hyper Voice versus the Gren. So I felt as though going for Protect there did allow me to potentially catch him on a double to Gren, and I really lost nothing by it. I know he's Assault Vest, he's not like SD Roost or anything like that, so I had no reason not to go for the Protect there, potentially catching him if he wanted to get a bit aggressive in this endgame, because I'm in a pretty solid spot here if I play my cards right. So yeah, he's gonna go for the Spirit Shackle, and it's not gonna be able to 2-KO my Mew because I am like max defense. So I'm gonna be able to roost up on this, as he is gonna go for the U-turn, and U-turn's really nice because whilst it does leave my Mew low and he allows his Gren in, he's taken the chip I need for my Mons to be able to take him out. So now his Gren's gonna go for the Dark Pulse here, and he's just gonna take out my Mew, as I am gonna be able to bring back in my Guard, and gonna go for the Hyper Voice here. That's gonna take out the Greninja, and this turn he's gonna send in the Decidueye, and I'm gonna go for the Protect here. The reason I go for Protect is if he Sucker Punch Owl, I can Encore lock him into Sucker Punch if he Sucker Punches his turn, and on my expected Hyper Voice or something, and Sucker Punch crits could potentially, you know, if he like crits my Scizor with Sucker Punch, he has the potential to win this game. So I'm going to go for Protect here just to scout for that, as he is just going to go for the Spirit Shackle, and now I can just go for the Hyper Voice here, leave him at 6%, and yeah, put him in range for my Lando's punishment to wrap up this game. Going Lando first gave me the Intimidate off on the Decidueye, so even if he did crit my Landorus with Sucker Punch through the Intimidate, he actually wouldn't be able to kill my Scizor the following turn. So yeah, that's going to be my game against Omega. Definitely a fun game. I thought he played really well, and yeah, pretty happy with the result there. Definitely fun to play. I think that's the first time I've played Omega in an actual game that wasn't a mock. So yeah, good fun to play my man. He's definitely like a rising player in the format. So yeah, definitely go and check him out. So that's going to be my my second game. And yeah, the next game, at this stage in the tour, I was actually racing to get my games done because I had to go off to a wedding the day of the tour, so I was playing my games back to back, and yeah, the next game I played literally after this one, so gonna jump into that right now. Alright, so game 3, I was going up against Jack, and he's got a pretty threatening team with the Mega Gallade and the Landorus T, so yeah, very nice offensive core right there. He has the Nihilego to check my Volk potentially if he wants to bring a Scarf set. Yeah, definitely a solid mon in this matchup in my opinion. Scarfed Nihilego, just given the fact that I don't actually have a rock resist. I've got mons that can like take power gems with ease, but like Mew can chew one. Munchlax obviously checks it, but yeah, Scuffed power gem is a big threat versus me. And then he's got, yeah, Pharaoh and Rotom, so definitely nice nice sort of defensive core. And then he's got Piloswine and Spiritomb in the back, plus a Hydreigon. So yeah, pretty nice offensive team here. Nice balanced team, I guess. And yeah, going to go over the team we brought for this. So I kind of toyed with the idea of sub Life Orb 3 attacks Volk, but ultimately I settled on a really clean Volk set, which I do like a lot. And going to get into that here. So we are running a sub Bug Buzz, Quiver Dance, Hidden Power Ground, Volk with Insect, Plate, and Swarm. Now this Volk is insanely strong with the Insect Plate and the Swarm boost. Sub allows me to sub down into range of Swarm to activate, as well as subbing on Thunder Waves from the opposing team, easing prediction versus potential pivots to his Nihilego. So I can sub up and fire off the Hidden Power Ground as opposed to just quivering and potentially getting outsped the following turn by a Scarf Nihi. I always will have a sub up if that's the case, and I can do big damage with the Hidden Power Ground. This Volk set is pretty clean, and I do like it quite a lot. So the next one we have here is Metal Coat Scizor, and yeah, Roost SD Superpower is just all I really need to put in the work. Rotom is the only kind of roadblock to this set, as is a defensive Landorus, but we've got ways of wearing those down and checking those, so Volk can also capitalize on Rotom pretty nicely. So yep, And this Sizzle is a pretty solid win con in this game, or at least just a breaker to wear down his team. Then we have a defensive Yachi Lando, so this helps a lot versus opposing Landorus, as well as an Ice Punch Mega Gallade. So yeah, Mega Gallade is a pretty big threat to my team, outspeeding it with ease, and having a Yachi on this Lando is going to allow me to check that nicely with EQ, as well as, you know, chip from the rest of my team. Defog is here because I want to keep rocks off the field. Volcarona is like a pretty big win con, or just a really valuable mon here, and yeah, having rocks up is not ideal for that monster to switch in. And then the next one we have here is a mixed defensive Rotom. Allows me to check, both. Allows me to, I don't know, take a hit from Hydreigon as well as his Landorus, and his Gallade. I can check Nihilego quite nicely as well if I need to take a hit. Again, double defog because Volcarona is important. Then we have a pretty nice lead Koa Mew, nice offensive 4 attacks Mew. These 4 coverage moves punish his team a lot. Psyshock hits Nihilego harder, but Psychic is nicer overall for the Piloswine, which is a pretty annoying mon on my team against my team, and Psychic allows me to wear that down quicker. Thick Fat obviously makes him immune to Flamethrower there, so Psychic also hits Rotom a lot harder as well. So Ice Beam on this set to Bop's Lando, Dazzling Gleam to Ikeo's the Mega Gallade, and Flamethrower obviously for the Pharaoh. So lastly we have a very bulky guard, Healing Wish on this guard to bring back either Volcarona or Sizzle once they're weakened. You know, they can break early and then I can revive them later on in the game, or even bring back my defensive Landorus if I need it. Hidden Power Fire allows me to hit the Pharaoh if I haven't already beaten that with my other team members, but because I don't have fire coverage on Volcarona, weakening that with Hidden Power Fire is pretty solid. So that's going to be the squad. Very fun team I built here. Pretty happy with it. But we're going to jump into the match and see how it went. Alright, so we're back with the match, and as you can see, he's opted not to bring the Piloswine or the Spiritomb, so yeah, he's brought a lot of solo threats to me, and but it is nice not to see that Piloswine. It means that my Volcarona can really just go ham, because even if he had brought it though, I guess Insect Plague Bug Buzz just demolishes that thing. But nonetheless, if I can remove Nihilego or just weaken it, even weaken it early game with Hidden Power Ground on Volk, then my sub Bug Buzz set is looking to put in work. +1 Swarm Insect Plate Bug Buzz kills Landorus T, so that's how ridiculously strong this thing is. But yeah, I'm gonna lead off with my Mew here. If he wants to lead off with one of his hazard setters, like his Ferrothorn or his Landorus or his Nihilego, I can remove all of them. And I've got double defog on this team, so I'm not really too fussed about rocks. If he does get them up, I can always just remove them with relative ease versus his team. Landorus is a pretty reliable defogger here. Rotom is too on stuff like his Rotom, on his Gallade, and on his Landorus. So going to lead off with Mew, as he is actually going to lead off with Nihilego, which kind of surprised me, because if this is lead Nihilego, he has pretty little for a +1 Volcarona. But gonna have to see. I am just gonna go for the Psychic this turn, as he is gonna go for Toxic. So he's I guess he's like Sash Toxic. I'm not sure. I get a crit on that Psychic there, which sucks for Jack if he planned on preserving Nihilego, but judging by the play he makes next, I'm not sure if that was actually his plan. And because he's Toxic, he's not Scarfed, so I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. Not too sure about what his game plan here with Nihilego was, but he is actually going to stay in here and Power Gem, so he's going to sack off his Volk response, which is really nice, because now I don't even have to worry about clicking Hidden Power Ground. I can literally just click Bug Buzz versus his team. So that's fantastic. And now he's going to switch in his Gallade here. I really contemplated going into my Landorus here on his potential knockoff or X-Scissor, but I can actually live a knockoff because I am Kolba Mew. So the only way this Gallade can kill me is if he's X-Scissor. So Jack actually reveals to be X-Scissor here. So yeah, really solid prep, because Kolba is pretty obvious on Mew, as it allows it to check Gallade and the Hydreigon. So yeah, going X-Scissor there, bypass that. So yeah, props to Jack, good prep. And this turn I can just go into my guard here and scare out this Gallade, because even an Adamant Poison Jab can't kill this guard. Because Fat Guard is the best guard. So this turn he is going to switch out into his Ferrothorn, and I am just going to go for the Hyper Voice here. And now I believe I just go out to my Landorus, as he is going to go for the Toxic here with his Ferrothorn. And this turn I'm going to U-turn out, expecting his Rotom to come in. I am a Z Landorus, so like Landorus is the Z-mon on my team, so he could have feared like all that pummeling or just EQ or even Flanium there, which Flanium is pretty solid versus his team, to be honest. So if I was like a setup Landorus, that could have been a real threat to his Ferro there. So he's going to go out to Rotom here, as I am going to U-turn. And now I'm going to bring in my Volcarona. So like I mentioned earlier when I was showing you guys the team, I have sub on this Volk, and I have sub on Volk for stuff like Rotom. I have it here for a reason. If I sub and he Hydros, I can Quiver Dance up the following turn and live the next Hydro. If I sub and he T-Waves, I get a free Quiver Up, and I actually just win the game at this point, because I can sub down into range, I can Quiver Up and then sub down into range of Swarm and just Oko everything. But for some reason, for some whack-ass reason, I don't know if it's because I was tired, because it was like super early in the morning when I played. Like, Australians have to wake up at like 4 or 5 o'clock to play in this tour, just because of the way the time zones work, or if it was just because I played Omega, like, and I directly played this game afterwards. I don't know what it was, but I throw away this Volcarona essentially right here, and I Quiver Dance up, not subbing here, because chances are he's going to have T-Wave. T-Wave Rotom is solid versus me, and yeah, for some reason I don't sub here. I can't tell you. I think I had a stroke, and I just Quiver Dance up in the face of this Rotom. Now, it's not the end of the world, because obviously I do have Healing Wish on guard, so I can always revive this Volcarona later here, but it's just a very bad play. I had no reason not to sub there. If he Hydroed, I had a second chance to QD up and punish the Rotom, and yeah, I don't know why, I just Quiver Dance there. Very, very bad play, but this turn he is going to take 95 from a Bug Buzz, so his Hydro is going to 54, so that's a 2 KO, but my Bug Buzz has, yeah, severely punished this Rotom, and now that's one less switch in he has to Landorus, which is nice, and one less switch in he has into Sizzle, which is really solid. So he is going to die to the second Bug Buzz here, as now he can now switch in his Landorus. So this turn I am going to switch out into my Rotom, as he does fire off a Continental Crush. So yeah, Continental Crush hitting both Rotom and my Landorus, so yeah, very solid Z move here. But this turn I can just go for the Willow in case he wanted to. Willow covered him going into Ferro, it covered him going to Gallade, predicting Hydro, and getting off chip on this Hydreigon is going to put him into range of Bullet Punch a little bit quicker. The reason I didn't Volt Switch there is because if he made some sort of Rocks play there, like if he was Rocks on his Landorus, because he didn't show Rocks on Nihilego, if he was Rocks on his Landorus, like offensive Rocks, he could have gone for that there. And punishing that with a Willow would have been really nice. He also could have gone down to Ferro, and if I'd burnt that with a Willow, I could set up later on with Volcarona versus it a lot easier if he had like some kind of coverage to hit my Volcarona. So going for Wisp there, yeah, I stand by that play. Obviously Volt would have been nice to get momentum there into guard, but it's not really a big problem, because the next turn I can actually just Volt out, knowing that I can take a Dark Pulse if he does want to go for it. And that's modest Scarf damage on this Hydreigon. I'm assuming at this stage that he is Scarfed, and that's modest damage, so that's good information to know. As now I can just go for the Hidden Power Fire here, pop the Ferro's Ocker. As it's looking like it's not really a roll. Like that Hidden Power Fire did 27, so he was at 50, 55. So unless I got like a really low roll there, chances are I wasn't going to knock out his Ferro with 2 Hidden Power Fires, but I go for it anyway, as this Ferro cannot kill my Gardevoir, and if he actually takes me out, like if he leaves me low after this exchange, I can always just Healing Wish up my Volk and win. But he's just going to set up his Rocks here, and that's kind of annoying, because like I want to defog the Rocks away before I Healing Wish my Volk, because having that thing come in and take 50 is not ideal. So realistically though, like I could have Healing Wished that turn and brought in Volk and subbed on the Rotom, which would have put me in Swarm range, and I could have got on the Ferro, sorry, I could have got a Quiver Dance up there. So I played this endgame really, really badly, and yeah, I don't really have an excuse for it. I think I was just tired, but yeah, very, very poor series of plays, as you're gonna see. And yeah, Jack's gonna go out to his Landorus here, as I am gonna sack off my Rotom, and he's gonna go for the Earthquake. And now I'm going to bring in my Lando. So looking at his team, Swords Dance Scissor is a very, very solid win condition in the late game. If I can get chip off on this Landorus and get an SD up, I actually win, because +2 Metal Coat kills Hydreigon from the range it's at. It kills Gallade with the HP investment that I think he can afford versus my team if he's offensive, unless he's like a really, really bulky Gallade, which he could potentially be, but based on like an offensive spread, which is really good versus my team, he can afford, I think it's 80 HP investment, and that's going to die to my +2 Adamant Metal Coat Scissors Bullet Punch. So if I can get Hidden Power Ice damage off on this Landorus, because he's intimidated, I can actually set up an SD with Scizor the following turn if he actually takes out my Landorus here. So, and if he doesn't, I can always sack off my Volcarona to Rocks, which will allow me to switch into Scizor, allow me to SD. But for some reason, I'm still focused on winning with Volk, so I'm gonna defog here, really not seeing the bigger picture here. He's gonna pop my Archie with the Hidden Power Ice, and I am going to remove the rocks, but I'm going to waste an opportunity to win here with Scizor and go out to Volcarona on what I thought would be his Hidden Power Ice, as now I go into my Gardevoir, and I want to put this thing in range of Bullet Punch, but as a result I'm going to drop to the EQ. So yeah, I really just threw away this endgame. I'm going to make the switch out into Scizor, predicting his Hidden Power Ice there, but he is going to SD, which is going to force me to actually kill him here with a Bullet Punch. That was a really good play by Jack, because if he'd killed me there, if he'd killed me with Hidden Power Ice, I could have set up a Swords Dance with Scizor, and obviously like he'd recognize like he'd lose if that happens. But if I killed his Landorus, that would allow him to switch out into his Hydreigon, which could just win with Flamethrower at that point. So because my Scizor would not be at +1, I couldn't, at +2 I wouldn't be able to knock out this Hydreigon, so Flamethrower would wrap up the game if I killed his Landorus there. So SD was 100% his play, and he made it. He played this game really well. I just choked, like, I don't know, I just threw away this game multiple times by not subbing with Volk, by obsessing over Volk as the win con instead of recognizing that Scizor literally won if I clicked Hidden Power Ice versus the Landorus. But that's a great lesson in not getting too focused on one particular win con, and getting that kind of tunnel vision and not seeing the big kind of overall picture and multiple ways you could win. I put Scizor on this team with this set as a win con, and I just completely overlooked it in the late game. So yeah, definitely a good lesson in what you shouldn't do in a draft game, and obviously not to rush. I think I really rushed my decision making in this game, and ultimately it led to throwing away multiple ways of winning this game in the early game with the Volk, and in the late game with not taking advantage of Scizor. So hopefully you guys can learn something from that loss. GG to Jack, he played it well and capitalized on my throws, on my sort of chokes there. So that's going to be my third game in the pool. And the last guy I had to play in the pool was Toad. So a guy I've played before, definitely a solid player in the format, and that's going to be a fun one. We're going to jump into that right now. Okay, so we're here with the game versus Hiker, and yeah, we're facing another Mega Gallade team. So yeah, Gallade really gaining some popularity in the draft format, and yeah, it's a very solid mon. He's got the Coco and the Taunt as well, so nice momentum core into Gallade with the Scizor to complement that, and then a solid defensive core with the Mungus, Slowbro, and the Piloswine, and then Incineroar, decent mon, but I don't really think it's going to come to this game. I think he's probably going to bring the 6 that I've got here, or the Slowbro over one of these. So he's got Z Coco as well, which is a massive threat to me, unless I bring Roselli, which is a potential check to it, but he could always run something like Guardian of Alola into Brave Bird, or Z Brave Bird or something. Yeah, definitely a threatening team, and he's a very solid player. He loves to use Taunt, he loves to spam U-turn with Taunt. He's very aggressive with U-turn on Taunt, so that's something I got to keep in mind. But yeah, just looking at his team at matchup, Volcarona is a massive threat, and the only way he really checks it is by running a really fat Assault Vest Tornadus with potentially Smackdown or Acrobatics, but Acrobatics is like weakened because he'll be Assault Vest. So yeah, I do think he'll be like Hurricane with Smackdown or something like that. He could potentially run like a really fat Incineroar, but I don't think it gets rock coverage. And yeah, Piloswine might also be one of his answers to Volcarona. So Going to jump into the team we brought for this game. So, pretty interesting Gardevoir here. You see I've got these nicknames here. It's just because I enter this team into the calc, and when I'm looking for, you know, the respective custom sets for each game, I can just identify them by the name. So I didn't bring these nicknames to the actual game, but yep. So we got the guard here: Hyper Voice, Wish Protect, and then Future Sight. So Future Sight is really interesting because it forces some it forces Hiker into some situations where he may want to switch out, not wanting to take base 120 psychic move from Mega Guard. I'm really bulky, but I am modest, so I've got a ton of special attack. And yeah, Wish Protect Hyper Voice is solid. It allows me to check his Taunt T, because I am like really defensive. And Wish Protect allows me to check that, as I do expect him to be an Assault Vest variant. It also allows me to check Gallade nicely, because again, Poison Jab cannot kill me. And I don't expect him to be a Swords Dance variant, because it just means he misses out on critical coverage versus my team. So 4 attacks is better in my opinion, but I guess he could be like bulk up. But either way, Hyper Voice is very solid. Future Sight punishes the Among Us if it wants to switch in on my Rotom, so I can play that pretty interestingly. But yeah, that's going to be the guard here. Then we have a pretty bulky Lando. I think I live Specs Modest HP Ice. No, it's like Life Orb Modest HP Ice from Coco. Z-Fly and EQ are just very solid versus his team. Rocks to allow me to put everything in range of my Scizor, and Defog again is important for the Volcarona. So then we have a very solid Wincon in this game in my Swords Dance Scizor. Bug Bite and Bullet Punch destroy his team. He has a very difficult time dealing with this Mon. The only way he really deals with it is if he brings a bulky fast Incineroar, and that can be whittled down with Stealth Rock damage, and I have pretty solid checks for that on my team. So he's in a pretty tough spot with Scizor. He obviously has his own Scizor, but depending on the set, it can't check my SD Scizor. So yeah, this Scizor is looking to be a solid late game Wincon. And then we have my Scarfed Trick Rotom. So this is here to trick and cripple Among Us or Piloswine, stuff like that. Even his Tornadus, if he wants to stay in and go for a U-turn, I can always trick him my Scarf, which means he's going to be a far less reliable check to my Volcarona. And potentially getting the trick off on his Fat Mons is going to be really nice. Again, Defog is solid for the Volcarona, and Wish support is appreciated from Mega Guard into this Rotom here. So then we have a Rocky Helmet Mew, again here to check the Mega Gallade. Psychic with Foul Play covers his team pretty nicely. Taunt allows me to stop him from spamming status moves from his Pharamons, and Mew's here to do what Mew does and just soak up hits and deal some nice chip damage with Psychic and Foul Play. Then lastly, we've got a really bulky Volk with Quiver Dance, Roost, Flamethrower. Toxic allows me to lure in the potential Assault Vest Storm, which I do expect it to bring. If I Toxic him, and then I switch out, I can Quiver up later on in the game and Roost on his Torn's attack. Smackdown will be doing half to me, and I can Roost up with lefties. I will not be 2-KO'd. And I can Toxic Stall his Volcarona, his Tornadus with my Volcarona, and win with Flamethrower in the late game. So that's going to be the team. Going to pause it here and jump into it. Yep, Hiker's a very solid player, so this should be a fun one. Alright, so Hiker opted not to bring the Mega Gallade, which is a pretty nice thing to see at matchup. But he's brought some pretty fat mons. He's got the Slowbro, the Among Us, and the Piloswine. So yeah, really nice defensive call with Coco, probably the biggest threat to my team. The Scizor, which isn't a big threat to me, to be honest. And then the Torn, which I do expect to be a Assault Vest. So a very fat team. Mega Gallade is very nice to see at matchup and really frees up Mew to perform more of a defensive role towards the Coco if he is a physically offensive variant. So gonna jump into it. He's gonna lead off with Taunt, as I do lead off with my Mew here. And I'm going to go into my Trace Gardevoir because I do Trace Regenerator, and if he wants to knock off, I gain information on this Taunt. And obviously I don't want to knock off Mew's Rocky Helmet if I can help it, because it is nice for checking Wild Charge Coco as well as U-turn on Sizz and U-turn on Tornadus. And if I can disguise Rocky Helmet and his Taunt gets low, I can potentially take it out late game with Rocky Helmet if he wants to go for U-turn, he's in range, something like that. So it's important to keep that information hidden if I can help it. As yeah, guard's going to take the knockoff pretty well, and he is going to stay in here and double knock off this turn. So really solid play by Hiker. Me going Rotom there covered him going for U-turn into something else, and I got a trick off, which would have been amazing here. But he makes the double knock play, which is pretty solid. As like that's actually going to knock off my Scarf, which it's good and bad. It now means that Rotom is instantly more flexible, but it means I lose a crippling mechanic, which would have been very solid in this game. But now I'm going to go into my Volcarona, and I do expect him to preserve this Amoonguss because he's not really going to want to like potentially risk me being sub, because sub sets up on Amoonguss, and if like sub beats Clear Smog variants of Amoonguss, which he could be, and toxic variants, so he could go Taunt here, which is what I do expect him to do. Maybe he's going to go Slowbro or Pillow Swine, but I really did expect the Taunt here. But he actually makes the play out into the Pillow Swine, so I'm going to catch that with a Toxic, put that on the timer, which is pretty solid. It means that he won't be able to infinitely set up rocks on my Rotom if he does Toxic me, because he'll be taking Chip 2. So I'm going to go for Defog, and he is going to go for the Toxic here. So I'm not going to play games with this Pillow Swine. I am just going to go for the Hydro, punishing him if he wants to get aggressive and stay in and rocks up. But he's going to go into Amoonguss, makes a safe play there, as now I can just switch out into my guard. I don't want to risk going for a Volt Switch there as he goes into Pillow Swine, because then I would have to take quite a bit from the Toxic damage, and you know, we'll want to keep Rotom as healthy as I can if possible. So he's going to go, I'm going to go out to my guard here, as I do again trace the Regenerator, but he's going to fire for Toxic, which is going to put my guard on a timer. But it's not too bad, because I can still Wish Protect and wish up the rest of my team with this Gardevoir, as now we will be able to wish my Rotom back up to a nice amount of health on his U-turn. But this is going to afford him to switch into Koko. So Koko's inside, and because Rotom could be like Will-O-Wisp, or even just hit him hard with a Hydro here, or go into my guard, which I've shown to be like a really bulky set. I'm going to go out to Landorus here, expecting his electric attack, as I do get the drop on him, and he does reveal the Wild Charge. So yeah, this is probably going to be like some sort of mixed Koko, or just purely offensive Koko. So not as big a threat as a especially offensive Koko to my team, honestly. So he's going to make the switch down to Slowbro here, as I just get up my rocks. I expected him to respect the potential of me being Scarfed Lando here, because Scarfed Lando is solid for the Gallade, it's solid for the Koko, and the Taunt as well if I'm Edge. And yeah, going for rocks here is going to be really nice for helping out Sizzle win in the late game. So going to get up my rocks, and now I'm going to go hard into my Mew, as he just goes for the Scald. If I get a burn, if he burns me, he'll be burnt back with Synchronize, and that'll be chipping down the Slowbro, which is pretty nice. But I'm just going to stay in here and Psychic, as I expect him to this turn maybe go into something like I don't know, I just feel like Psychic was my play there. I didn't want to switch anything else into this Slowbro, and Mew is pretty expendable at this stage in the game, and it got me good information on whatever he wanted to switch in, and as well as the spread of his Slowbro. But he's actually going to be eject button on this Slowbro, so he's going to get ejected out into Scizor. Pretty cool set. I'm trying to think about how he could have used that. Maybe he was going to be it would have definitely cancelled out my my momentum with U-turn, so maybe he expected like U-turn on Landorus, it would proc his eject button and allow him to switch out into something like Torn. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure he had a good plan behind that. But he's now going to bring in his Scizor, and I'm just going to Taunt here. Could have gone for the foul play, obviously, or just switched out hard into my Volcarona, but because he brought Sizz to this matchup, where offensive Sizz doesn't have a good matchup at all, in fact it's checked by half my team, I expect this to be a really bulky Sizz, aimed at checking Gardevoir, and probably going to be defog on this team, because his fat team does not appreciate rocks up at all. So I'm going to go for Taunt, even if he does U-turn here. That's fine, he takes Helmet, and I keep my rocks up, and that Koko or Taunt are his only defoggers, and because Taunt is Assault Vest, that leaves Koko as his only alternate defogger after Sizz. So I was willing to make that risk, as he takes a chunk off my Mew with that attack, as this turn I am just going to switch back out into my Landorus. As obvious a switch as it was, I wanted to roost up there, but preserving Mew with Taunt is going to be really nice, potentially in the late game for the Slowbro and the Amoonguss. So now I'm going to switch out to my Lando here, as he catches me with a Hidden Power Ice. So great play there, as he is going to go out to Taunt here, as I believe I am going to switch out into my Guard here. So Guard covered him, obviously staying in and Hidden Power Icing again. And because he was at -1 with the Intimidate, I would be able to live a Wild Charge with ease, because I'm really defensive on this Guard, as he actually goes out into his Taunt, which is really nice. So I'm gonna Wish up this turn, I believe, as he is gonna switch out into his Amoonguss. I get a Wish up, and now I'm just gonna click Future Sight, because I want to position my Scizor. I'm gonna Protect here actually. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself there, but the nice thing about this situation is this is looking a solid position for my Scizor to come in and set up, if I can just position it correctly with this Amoonguss. So he is going to go for the Toxic, as I do go for the Protect, and then get my Guard up to a nice amount of health. So this turn I'm going to go for the Future Sight. And the way Future Sight works, for those of you who may not know the mechanic, basically 2 turns after you click the move, whatever's in on the opponent's side of the field will take 120 base power Psychic move. So I'm going to go for the Future Sight, and the next turn I am going to Wish up, as the Amoonguss is going to go for the Toxic. So my Gardevoir is going to die to the residual Toxic damage, but this is going to allow me to bring in Sizz. And the nice thing about this turn is, if he stays in and attacks me here, like my play here 100% is the Swords Dance. If he stays in and goes for Hidden Power Fire, it's going to do around half. I'm going to heal back like all that with the Wish, and he's going to take a actually take a Future Sight on his Amoonguss, which is going to kill it unless it's a Psychic Berry, and if it's not a Psychic Berry, it puts it in guaranteed range of Bullet Punch. But honestly, +2 Scizor kills it with Bug Bite unless it's max defense. But if this Amoonguss takes the +2, if this Amoonguss takes the Future Sight, it's going to be guaranteed in range of Bug Bite from this Scizor if he is max defense. So this puts him in a bit of a checkmate position, because either way I'm getting up an SD here. Foul Play wouldn't kill as well, so Foul Play and Hidden Power Fire are doing about the same amount to my max HP Scizor. So very solid position for my Sizz here. I'm going to Swords Dance, as he is going to Hidden Power Fire. He's going to do 58. He's going to take the Future Sight attack. He's going to reveal the Berry. I'm going to get the Wish back. So a lot happened in that turn. Like a lot of different effects happened in that one turn, but the momentum of the match has shifted completely into my court, as Scizor is now in the driver's seat to wrap this one up. So his Amoonguss is going to drop. He's now going to bring in his own Scizor, and I'm just going to go for the Bullet Punch, and he's going to go for the Technician Hidden Power Fire, which is going to do 57. Does a decent chunk. This is definitely a defensive Technician Scizor, but it's not going to be able to take me out, because I had received the Wish. I was at a very high amount of health, and yeah, Scizor is looking in a solid spot to win this. So I'm going to 2k him with a Bullet Punch there, as Taunt's going to come in here, and even if he is max HP, I guarantee kill him, because I am Metal Coat. I think if I wasn't Metal Coat and he was max HP, there was a slight chance he could live that hit, a +2 Bullet Punch. There was a slight roll, but I am Metal Coat, so it was just a guaranteed kill there. As yeah, Pillar Swan's going to come in here and drop, and Slowbro is going to come in and drop to the Bug Bite. He wasn't Tanga Berry, we saw he was eject button from earlier, and now the Coco's in range of the +2 Bullet Punch. So that's going to be my match against Hiker. Yeah, definitely a fun game. Definitely cool to see Future Sight Guard. I've wanted to use this guard, I've wanted to use Future Sight Guard ever since I started using this mon, and unfortunately it's just never really had a solid matchup, but here it definitely proved its worth. So cool to see that work on the guard. So nice 5-0 in my last round of pools. So I did advance on into the bracket round, and that actually took place the next day. So this after this happened, I had to race off to the wedding, and the next morning at around 4 o'clock, I had to wake up in the morning to play in the bracket round. So gonna pause it and gonna jump into that in just a second. Okay, so we're here with the first round of my bracket play, and yeah, for this one we're going up against Hunter Z Infected. So don't really know too much about this guy, but I do recognize his name from these kind of draft tournaments before. So he's one of those guys that does pretty well in these tournaments, so obviously you got to respect that. He's made it to brackets, and I think he may have been in the open pool, so in the open division, so he had to actually play more games to get here. So yep, definitely a solid opponent. And he's got a very nice team. He's got Zealanders and Zard X, which I think is a really solid pairing. Yeah, my man Greg has his core in the NPL as well as Rotom, actually, funnily enough, and Alolan Raticate. So I don't know, maybe Hunter Z is a big Greg fan because he's got the nice Greg core here. But yeah, this is definitely a threatening duo. These two here, definitely two of the best breakers in the format, and as a result, my Landorus, you already know, is going to be a pretty fat set to be able to check these two monsters. So just looking at his team, Volcarona destroys him, unless his Clefable is an unaware set with like Toxic or something like that to check Quiver Dance or Roost variants of Volcarona. But yeah, his team is really pretty weak to Volk. Obviously he does have Zard X, but I'm going to run Quiver Dance with Life Orb, Hidden Power, Ground on this set, or Hidden Power Dragon. I think it's Hidden Power Ground actually on this Volk, or Hidden Power Rock even. And that's going to really punish the Zard X. It can kill it at +1, so if it's like an offensive variant, he needs to be like max HP with some Spit F to live this hit. So yeah, going to be bringing a pretty fun team for this game, and as you guys can see, these are the 6 I do expect him to bring. He may opt to bring the Raticate because it can potentially trap Mew if I'm not a Wisp variant, or if I don't have anything to hit it. And Hustle boosted Raticate is pretty strong, so he may opt to bring that in conjunction with these two monsters to wear down my Landorus. So that's something I'm going to have to account for, but this is going to be the team I brought to this game. And yeah, this is a really nice sub Encore guard. Sub with this HP investment allows my guard's sub to live a Rotom's Volt Switch, so like Max Roar Volt Switch cannot break my sub, meaning that most of the time I'm going to be able to sub up on that thing, unless he clicks Hydro and risks taking a Hyper Voice, which is pretty risky because you know Hyper Voice is going to be doing a ton. Yeah, guard is going to be able to sub up on that and take advantage. Encore is here to check Clef, because if he's softballed or if he's unaware, then I'll just be able to Encore lock it. And Hyper Voice in conjunction with Psyshock hits his team perfect neutral coverage at least. Yeah, pretty much everything just gets destroyed by Hyper Voice. Here's a Roserade which gets handled by Psyshock. So yeah, that's the guard set. Very solid here. Enough speed to tie with Zard, because whilst I tend not to usually run like max speed guard, tying with Zard could be pretty important in winning a tie if he is max speed, or he may also be a bulky Zard just outspeeding Jelly Lando. So yeah, being able to either Encore lock him or just spam Hyper Voice is pretty nice there. And next up I mentioned we have a defensive Landorus, literally max defense Lando. Again, this should be max all, I don't know why it defaults to that, but yep, EQ, Protect, Hidden Power, Ice, and U-Turn, pretty solid. U-Turn is just here for the Rotom essentially, and getting momentum out on a Zard if I think he's going to switch out. Hidden Power, Ice, just here for his Landorus. So Protect in conjunction with Lefties allows me to scout. It allows me to scout for choice locked mons. It allows me to protect up on Z-moves from his Landorus to gain just residual leftovers back, and potentially Toxic whittle down his team. If I do manage to poison them, I have Toxic on my Scizor, so I can always yeah, stall the Rotom down a bit with Toxic if I do manage to lure that with Scizor. So yeah, very solid here. Also checks the Cobalion, and if he has a balloon variant, I U-turn on that, pop the balloon, and then bring Landorus in later to take that out with an EQ. So pretty essential here. Then we have the second kind of, or I guess the second mon in our defensive core, and that's going to be Rotom here with the Rocky Helmet. It does check Zard quite nicely, or it doesn't check it, but it because Zard actually sets up on Rotom if he's fat, but it does cripple it, whilst also checking Landorus quite nicely with Hydro. Also, Cobalion doesn't enjoy taking on Rotom. It's a pretty solid partner to Landorus, as just Landorus alone could be overwhelmed if he does opt to bring, you know, Raticate, Cobalion, Zard, and Lando. So having more than one defensive response to that is going to help me out for sure. And Defog just, yeah, essentially here for the Volcarona. Okay, so the next one we have is my Helmet Mew. Another response to his physical offense. With Taunt and max speed, I can Taunt, can stop a Zard from DDing up on me, unless he's like max speed Jolly and he wins the tie, which is unlikely. With Ice Beam here, I check Landorus T, and Taunt is just really nice to stall break stuff like Mashana. I also outspeed Roserade as well, which is really solid. I could have gone Psyshock to deal more to the Roserade, but because I'm not invested, it doesn't OHKO anyway, and Psyshock is nicer. Psychic is nicer for Cobalion. It's nicer for the Charizard as well, as Psyshock would do less, and a bit nicer for the Rotom as well, because chances are he's going to be physically defensive to check my Landorus if he does bring it, and my Scizor. So the next one we have is the Scizor here, so pretty interesting spread. Pretty much here to lure the Rotom and the Zard, potentially with Toxic, because Zard is fantastic switch into Sizz, so is Rotom. So if we can get either of those Toxic, it's going to make my defensive Mons have a lot easier time sort of just roost stalling or just checking those with Protect in Landorus' case. And Bullet Punch with this attack investment gives me a solid revenging tool for stuff like Clefable. Superpower does allow me to check Cobalion as well, which is a bit annoying to my team if it's like a setup variant. So and you know, Landorus is weakened and stuff, so it too goes like max HP Cobalion, something like that, or I think it could just be offensive Cobalion. And then yeah, the last one here is my Quiver Dance 3 attacks Volcarona. Pretty standard, nothing too crazy about the set. Hidden Power Ground spanks the Zard, and Life Orb is just essential to secure OHKOs on stuff like offensive Landorus at +1. Rotom, max HP Rotom gets OHKO'd by +1 Giga Drain with the Life Orb, and yeah, his team just gets murked by Volcarona. So that's going to be the team. Gonna pause it and jump into the game and see what happened. Alright, so here we are with the game, and as you can see, Hunter has actually brought the Raticate, so nice threat on deck. He's actually brought all his potential physical attackers, so yep, Cobalion, Landorus, Zard, Raticate, potentially attempting to pressure my defensive responses, so that's going to be interesting to play around. I'm going to opt to lead off with my Scizor, as I have fantastic switch-ins into his Landorus and Zard if he does want to lead with those, and Rotom can always catch a Toxic, so going to lead off with Sizz, as if he does lead off with the Raticate, Sizz was my best lead matchup, which is another reason why I led with this, because if this is Scarfed Gambit, which is definitely like a viable set on this thing, it could take out one of my Mons. Like it would kill Volk, it would kill Rotom, it would kill Guard, just because their HP would be far lower than this max HP potential Alolan Raticate. So if he is Scarfed as well, he doesn't need to run a ton of speed, he can afford to run attack and HP, so yeah, Final Gambit would be pretty annoying. So leading Sizz and just bullet punching off the bat ensures that my Scizor lives the Final Gambit, and I can always recover up on something like the Cobalion. So yeah, he's going to switch out this turn and go into his Rotom here, as I just bullet punch, and now I'm going to stay in here in Toxic. I have no reason not to. If he makes the switch out, like if anything, he's probably going to Wisp there. And if he makes the Volt Switch play out, he's probably not going out into Roserade, he's probably going out into something like Landorus or Zard to capitalize on the U-turn, likely U-turn from my Scizor. So Toxic was definitely my play of choice there, as he does attempt to Toxic me. I think he maybe thought I was going to go out to my my Mew or my Guard, or even my Volcarona on the potential Wisp, but I think all the, like, I don't think I would have gone Guard there. Maybe he just expected me to go into my Guard or my Mew, so that's only what I can estimate here based on that play. But now I can make the switch out this turn, I believe. No, I stay in here and he Volts. I think I do Superpower this turn, expecting him to either stay in or go Cobalion there, and if he had stayed in, he would have taken quite a decent chunk from that Superpower, and I would have got information on his EV spread on the Rotom, which would have been nice. So he does actually Volt out to the Roserade, and he's going to take a decent chunk from that Superpower, which is really nice, putting it in range for stuff like EQ from my bulky Landorus and Psychic from my Mew, so that's really solid. He's now going to Leech up with his Roserade, as this turn I am going to double into my Scizor, expecting him to make the play into his Raticate on the likely Psychic, or like, yeah, I guess Calm Mind maybe there from the Mew. And again, this prevents his Raticate from claiming one with Final Gambit, as had I stayed in with Mew, he could have like Pursuit Trap me or Scarf Knockoff, or even just click Gambit and really weaken my Mew. So going Sizz here prevents his Gambit from being completely, fully effective. As you see there, I do manage to live it, and he is going to die in the process. So that's the annoying dark type out of the way. Psychic is now freely spammable from Mew, so that's really nice. As now he's going to go into his Zard here, so I'm just going to go into my Landorus as he does Stain and Fire Punch. And whilst he's at -1, that Fire Punch is Tough Claws boosted, and it only did 18.9%. So this is definitely a bulky Zard that's non-attack invested, or very little anyway. So this turn I am going to protect to scout to see if he's like Wisp or Toxic or something, or like Fire Spin with Wisp or something like that, some wild set, maybe even HP Ice to lure my Lando for his own Landorus and his Cobalion. But he actually is Wisp, so I'm just going to go into Rotom now, as this kind of establishes this is a bulky Zard and Rotom is pretty free on it. As this turn I can proceed to just Volt Switch, as he is going to go out into his own Rotom here. So I'm going to now bring in my Guard. So this is kind of the situation I wanted when I did prep for this game. I wanted Guard to be able to come in on Rotom and set up a sub, as it does kind of just claim one every time it comes in. So yeah, Guard's going to get a sub up here, as Rotom will fail to break the sub, and yeah, his Volt is going to fail, and he's now going to bring in Cobalion here. So Cobalion is just going to bop my sub with the Iron Head, and Guard's Hyper Voice is actually going to Oko, revealing that he had to have been naive Cobalion to die to a Hyper Voice there. It was a 50-50 roll if he was like offensive with naive. And the reason I say that is because chances are he had Hidden Power Ice or Hidden Power Fire for my Landorus and Scizor respectively. A jolly like offensive Cobalion wouldn't have died to the Hyper Voice there, so that was definitely a mixed Cobalion. So that's pretty interesting prep. I can definitely respect that. It would have given his team a solid secondary response to Scizor if he was Hidden Power Fire, but chances are he was Hidden Power Ice to again lure my Landorus for his respective physical breakers. So of course I don't have his team, but that's just the assumption I'm making. So now he's going to go into his Landorus, and I am just going to go hard out into my own Landorus here, just getting the Intimidate drop on him, as he is going to stay in here in Continental Crush. It's going to do a decent chunk, decent 35, but with the lefties and the potential I have to protect, I'm not too fussed about that. I can just 2KO him here with the Hidden Power Ice, and as you see, like, Hidden Power Ice does 70, so yeah, comfortable 2KO on this Landorus. His Stone Edge will do very little, even though he is a +1 because I'm such a bulky Landorus, but he just reveals the Hidden Power Ice, so he's not even risking the Edge Miss, which I can respect. Just doing as much damage as he possibly can with Hidden Power Ice. So at this point, I'm going to preserve Landorus because the Intimidate could be important versus the Zard if he manages to, like, if I really need it in the late game. Like, I've already won this game, but preserving Intimidate is useful. There's no reason not to, especially when I have switched into this Roserade in the form of my Scizor. So I'm going to go in, pivot into the potential Giga Drain or Sludge Bomb, as now I can just stay in here and Bullet Punch this. Scizor was useless versus everything but the Roserade. I could have Toxic the Zard on a potential Roost, or maybe caught it on the switch with Toxic. But honestly, like, the only mon that Scizor was really checking offensively was this Roserade. So this will award me a switch into Mew, who will actually be able to win the game now, because I am max speed, and chances are his Zard is not max speed, and we won't even tie. I am just going to Taunt here, as he reveals Dragon Dance there. So he was a bulky Dragon Dance set, probably one of my favorite Zard sets to run, to be honest. But Roost in conjunction with Psychic and Rocky Helmet will be able to wear down this Zard, and yeah, it's going to be pretty nice. I'm just going to Psychic here. It's going to take him out of the Ranger health, and yeah, now the Rotom is Toxic. It's already on a timer. I can just start. I can just Taunt this in case he wants to, T-Wave me or Pain Split or something like that, or Toxic me. As now I can just spam Roost, put him into range of Psychic, and yeah, that's going to be the game. So definitely a fun game. At this stage, like, prepping for this game, I think I was prepping like 1 AM because I was like heading back from the wedding, and I had a look at the bracket, and this is who I was playing. So yeah, considering all things considered, I think I prepped pretty well for this game. But yeah, after this game, the next game I played, I had 15 minutes to prep, and yeah, definitely the 15-minute prep time definitely places a bit of stress on yeah, building a proper solid team, and yeah, we're going to jump into that now. So I'm just going to pause it here, and we're going to get into my next bracket game. Alright, so my next game in the bracket round was against a guy called The Brain, and I don't really know who this guy is. I think he may be affiliated with Hive. I'm not too sure about that, but either way, he's got a very spooky team. He's got Landorus Eye, which is always a menace, and he has Lycan Rock, and I actually don't have a Rock Resist on this team, so that's going to be a threat. And then he's got Finny, which checks Volk quite nicely, and Arcanine, which checks Sizzle, which is otherwise a really solid win con in this game. And obviously, like, my little LC Mons, my Munchlax and my Roselia aren't the most useful here. Munchlax could, I suppose, be a setup win con here, but you know, he's got like Haze on Finny, he's got like Intimidate / Roar on Arcanine, and then potential close combat with his Virizion. And he's got a Wobbuffet in the back, which is a pretty solid trapper, and a nice mental warfare tool with the Shadow Tag. So this is going to be the team I opted for this game, and yeah, this was a pretty rushed prep time, but still a pretty solid team in my opinion. Again, we had about 15 minutes to prep for this game, so this is going to be the team that I built for this game. Going to be bringing SD, Roost, like very bulky Sizz, offensive with Helmet to check, to punish U-turn spam from his Scizor. No real reason to run like a boosting item, because Swords Dance just destroys his team outside of the things that take nothing from it. Like Arcanine is going to take nothing from it, whether I'm Metal Coat or not. And his own Scizor is more punished by Rocky Helmet than he is by me holding a boosting item there, so that's essentially the reasoning for that. And then we have a Charty Berry Volk, creeping, I believe, what am I creeping here? I think I was creeping a Finny, like a max speed modest Finny or something like that. Yeah, I think that's what I was creeping. And I had a strong feeling his Landorus Eye was going to be a Scarf set to check +1 Volk with like Rock Slide or something. So he also had a Cell Rock on his own Lycan Rock. So yeah, Volcarona is pretty hard pressed to set up and win, but it's still a solid mon here for sure. Checking stuff like Scizor, checking Arcanine quite nicely with Hidden Power Ground, and his Tackle Finny with the Giga Drain. Charty Berry can come in handy because I can live an Excel Rock from Lycan Rock with the Charty Berry from full, and I can also live I think I may be able to live a Rock Slide if I'm at full, or it may occur, I'm not sure. I forget the calcs on that, but yeah, pretty solid item here. Then we have a bulky Mew with enough speed for max speed Finny with Taunt Psyshock to ensure I'm not beaten by Calm Mind Finny, and Ice Beam allows me to check Landorus with this Spadef investment. I can also taunt stuff like Arcanine, stop that thing from healing up, and I also beat his Virizion, so yeah, pretty solid mon here. Obviously is walled by the Scizor, but we have a few answers to that on the team. Taunt is also nice for the Wobbuffet in case he wants to bring that. Then we have my bulky Landorus SD Flynium with the Rock Polish. This is an amazing mon in this matchup, like very solid indeed. With the Z-Fly, I can kill his only EQ sort of resist or immunities in Landorus and Virizion, and Rock Polish Landorus is a very solid late game win con. And Intimidate with the bulk that I have is amazing in checking, in buffering hits from Lycan Rock, in checking stuff like Rock Slide Landorus. It's just a very solid mon here. Probably like next to Mew, probably the most important mon in this matchup. Then we have my defensive Rotom with enough special attack to 2 KO, max HP, Mega Sizzle with Hidden Power Fire, Defog to ease Volcarona's time setting up, get rocks off the field. I've got, again, the double Defog with the Rotom and the Landorus to ensure that at least one of them gets the Defog off. And Defog is nice because Landorus doesn't want to take rocks if it doesn't need to. Then lastly we have Mega Guard with Wish Protect. Hidden Power Fire will allow me to snipe the Sizz if he wants to play really aggressively with that and U-turn on my guard, expecting my Volcarona and my Rotom, because I have obviously really nice switch-ins to that. And Wish Protect is really solid because passing wishes to stuff like Landorus, Rotom, and my own Scizor is going to be really useful this game. So it also allows me to check his Jolteon. So Jolteon cannot beat me 1v1. So that's going to be the team. I'm going to pause it here and we're going to jump into this. Alright guys, so we're back here with a match, and as you can see, he's opted not to bring the Wobbuffet, which is pretty nice for my team. And he has brought the Lycanroc and the Scizor though, which are two big threats, and the Landorus Eye of course, and the Jolteon as well. So yeah, very, very solid threats to my team. But yeah, pretty confident we can wrap this one up. So gonna lead off with my Scizor, as he does lead off with his Landorus here. Now, I want to respect the potential Earth Power. Whilst I do think this should be Scarf, just looking at my team, I gotta respect the Earth Power, and I don't have a ton on this Scizor that can, like, I don't have anything that can 2-KO this Landorus, and I don't want to take like a ton from Earth Power. So I'm gonna switch into my Rotom here, as he's now gonna go out into his Jolteon with the U-turn. So U-turn implies that he's Scarfed, like U-turn Rock Slide with maybe like Iron Tail and like Hidden Power Ice or something for my Landorus, or Knockoff or something. Probably going to be his set, and now he's going to bring in Jolteon, and because I've got such a slow team, he can definitely afford to run Modest Life Orb here, so that's pretty spooky, though I do expect him here to click T-Bolt or Hidden Power Ice, predicting my Landorus potentially. So right here I am going to go out into my guard, as I'm going to trace his Volt Absorb here and soak up the Volt Switch, getting taking no damage that turn as a result. Now here I want to scout and see if he's Life Orb. If he is Life Orb, he's probably going to go for the Shadow Ball here, or he's going to Volt again, and then switch out into something to take the hit. So I'm going to Wish up here, as his Shadow Ball is going to do 45, so does a solid chunk, but it's not a 2-KO, and I can proceed to Wish into Protect, and essentially Life Orb stall this Jolteon if it does want to stay in here, but he is just going to Volt out, and he crits me there, which is a bit unfortunate, but it won't really end up mattering, because right here I am just going to Wish up and then proceed to Protect, as he is going to Mega Evolve with his Scizor and just go for the U-turn here. So that's all good. Right here I'm going to switch out and go into my Scizor, as he does just click Knock Off and knocks off my helmet, which is not the end of the world. Obviously it would have been nice to have the helmet here to be able to check this Scizor multiple times through the match, but Knock implies that he's not going to be SD, because he could always be Roost, SD, Knockoff, and Bullet Punch, but I feel like he will have the U-turn on here, and that is going to be confirmed, as he does just click the U-turn there. So he's obviously not a Swords Dance, which means that he's a defensive. He's pretty offensive actually. Like I think he was bulky with like some attack investment, because his knockoffs and U-turns were doing quite a lot of damage. And I'm going to go for the U-turn here, getting slow switch momentum on whatever he wanted to bring in. But unfortunately, he brings in his Arcanine here, which is going to be Rocky Helmet, which means I'm going to take around a Helmet, which actually puts me in range of Rock Slide from Landorus, which is going to be pretty unfortunate, as you're going to see later on. But he is going to bring in the Arcanine here, and this does award me a switch out into my Landorus, and this is fantastic, because nothing his Arcanine has can OHKO me. He's intimidated, so if he's like banned with Flare Blitz, that's no longer a threat. But honestly, like based on that U-turn damage, this is definitely defensive, max defensive Arcanine, and he's Rocky Helmet, so he's not like banned or anything. But yeah, this turn I am just going to click Z-Fly. If he wants to attack me, if he wants to burn me with Wisp, I can 2-KO him with Z-Fly into EQ. If he wants to switch out into Landorus or his Virizion, they will die to a Z-Fly. And if he's for some reason has Hidden Power Ice and he wants to stay in here and do click Hidden Power Ice, it's going to do between 60 and 70%, leaving me well and truly in range of multiple Rock Switch-ins and able to check his physically offensive mons in Lycanroc late game, especially if I can pass a Wish from Guard into Landorus, which is very easily done, because his switch into Guard is Scizor. So if I Wish up at some point during the game and he brings in Scizor, I can always just pass that Wish into Landorus, as he either knocks, which won't kill me because I don't have an item, plus I'll have him intimidated, or he U-turns, which cannot kill me either, and Bullet Punch won't kill me either. So Landorus is a fantastic one here. I'm willing to take the damage if he has Hidden Power Ice, as like I said, I can always heal it up late game, and even if I don't manage to heal it up, it's just a very solid team supporter in the late game. But you're going to see I'm going to fire off my Z-Fly, and it's going to do a ton to this Arcanine, essentially removing it as a Scizor check, but he's going to crit my Landorus, and this is massive. This is, like, that crit on Landorus pretty much like changed the game entirely. Yeah, I can't stress how important having Landorus was for me, and even just having it at, like, even if you got a max roll of 70% there, which chances are he wouldn't. He'd get like either like a lowish or mid roll. So even if he did get like a very max roll, I'd be at 30%. If he got like min, I'd be at 40, and I would be able to pass switches into that late game from guard, and I also would be able to get intimidate drops versus his team. And at the very least, it would have been another sack, so that's definitely important to take into consideration. So right here, I'm just going to click Hyper Voice as he sacks off his Arcanine. So that's one less check to Swords Dance Scizor, except it's looking pretty difficult for my Scizor to roost up now because it doesn't roost on anything. It's because it took that round of Rocky Helmet on the Arcanine, it's at a range of health where it'll die to pretty much anything on his team. So this turn I am going to click Hidden Power Ice, Hidden Power Fire as he does stay in and Bullet Punch, and we're going to knock him out here with a Hidden Power Fire as we do live the Bullet Punch there. So yeah, Fat Guard putting in the work, as now my switch into Jolteon no longer really exists. So I'm going to have to go out into my Volcarona and just click Flamethrower as he will Volt Switch out this turn. So this was a pretty interesting turn. I felt like here he could have gone vaulted out into either Lycanroc, expecting the Quiver Dance and being able to revenge me with a Cell Rock. He could have gone out into a... it also would have covered me going for Flamethrower there. He could have gone into his Scarfed Landorus, which would have covered me going for Quiver Dance because he would have outsped me the next turn. And he also would have been able to live a Flamethrower, unless I was Specs. So... I expected him to make that play, or his Virizion may also be another Scarfer, but I think Virizion is a kind of subpar Scarfer, but if he opts to bring more than one Scarfer, it's definitely a possibility. So I am just going to go for the Flamethrower here, and his Virizion is going to live on 9. So now I'm going to go out to my Mew as he clicks Stone Edge. So this kind of implies that he probably is a Scarfed Virizion, because unless he's like offensive with like SD, like 3 attacks, like Scarfed Stone Edge is a pretty decent revenger for Volk if he hasn't opted to be like Scarfed Lando. But he's actually going to stay spamming Stone Edge here, so he's going to get 2 crits in a row as Mew is going to get back up to nearly full. And the fact that he's spamming Edge like this implies that he probably is Scarfed, or he was just really going for those crits, I don't know, but Leaf Blade also has a high crit ratio, so... I feel like Leaf Blade, if he had it, was the play there, but I think he probably is Scarfed at this stage. Right here, I am just going to click Psyshock as he brings in his Jolteon, and that takes a ton from Psyshock. And because he's Life Orb, we'll just be able to roost up this turn and you know, allow him to die off to Life Orb as Mew's going to get back up to full. So this is really nice, except he has his Lycanroc, and this thing, because I am Psyshock instead of Psychic, I won't be able to 2-KO him with Psyshock. And he will be able to Swords Dance up in my face, so he is going to click Swords Dance this turn, as Psyshock is going to do around 40%, does 41, so at this stage it was a bit of a 50-50, like if he Swords Dances again, he essentially like seals the game with the ability for himself to just click his Cell Rock after killing my Mew with his Z move, because I don't have anything on this Mew that can OHKO the Lycanroc at this point. I only have Psyshock, but he doesn't know that. Like he may think that I was that I'm like Wisp or something. So really, him going for his Z move here is probably his best play. But I couldn't risk him. Like I actually couldn't risk him going for another SD here. Like whilst I switch out, I have to attack here, get the damage off. If he pops his Z move, then Rotom revenges. And that is what's going to happen. He's actually going to pop his Z move, and Mew is going to go down here, which is very unfortunate because it just checked Virizion and Landorus to beat those two. But again, I couldn't allow him to get up another SD and just win the game from there. So Rotom is going to be able to live that edge, but it's going to take a ton from that Stone Edge in the process as we take out the Lycanroc there. And now he more than likely has 2 Scarfers left, which means that Scarfed Rock Attack pretty much wins the game at this point. And yeah, the reason why losing Landorus is so important, as you're going to see here, yeah, he's going to bring in his own Landorus, and I choose to switch out to Volcarona because I really do feel like his play there is to go for the U-turn, taking out my Rotom and giving himself a switch into his Virizion, which can just click Stone Edge and win the game. But if he stays in with Rock Slide, he's really playing around with missing Rock Slide, and if he goes for Rock Slide there and misses my Rotom, like if he misses Rock Slide with his Landorus versus my Rotom, and I click Hydro Pump, I put him in range of Scizor if he doesn't die to Hydro, and Scizor wins because Virizion in range of Bullet Punch. So I really honestly felt like U-turn was his play there. But he stays in and Rock Slides, so that's pretty unfortunate. He's actually going to miss his Rock Slide. So had I just stayed in there with Rotom, I literally won the game as long as Pump connected. Now he will be able to outspeed my Volk and kill me through the Charty with Rock Slide. So right here I am going to attempt to Roost Up with Scizor. If he misses Rock Slide here, I can Roost Up and click SD and win the game. But he is going to land his Rock Slide. So yep, pretty unfortunate. Now the reason why losing Landorus was so important here, I'll go back and show you. If on this turn here, where are we? Okay, so when alright, beautiful. So Rotom's gonna drop here. That turn where I switched Rotom out into Volcarona, all I had to do was sack Volcarona, bring in Landorus for the Intimidate drop, sack Landorus or sack Rotom, and bring in Landorus in again one more time, and get another Intimidate drop, or even just a single Intimidate drop would have put Scizor out of range to die from a Scarf Rock Slide. So that would have allowed me to Roost Up and then SD, as he's forced to switch out into Virizion, who cannot 2 carry me, which would have allowed me to get a he couldn't OHKO me from like 66%, which I would have been at, or 76 if he didn't stay in to attack me with the Rock Slide at -1. I could then get 2 SDs up on the Virizion and OHKO that obviously, and then OHKO the Landorus. So yeah, pretty unfortunate that we lost Landorus there to a crit. It would have allowed us to win this end game, but you know, that's Mons, and these things happen in the tour. We were pretty lucky not to lose a game to hacks up to this point, so that's just how it goes sometimes. It's a bit of a theme in this tour. I feel like a lot of solid players get just hacked out of wins in this tour, and they get eliminated because it is single elimination in brackets. So yep, that's going to be the game. Unfortunate end to what was a pretty fun run in this tournament, honestly. But yeah, it was definitely fun to see the tournament continue, and King L5 actually won this tour in the end in a pretty exciting match against II, so that was definitely a good match. I recommend you guys go and check that out if you haven't. I know the TokenMinorities have it up on their channel, so they've actually got coverage of the entire tournament, so I definitely recommend you guys go and check that out, and yeah, see how that finals went. I think King L5 also has uploaded his side on his channel, so yeah, definitely go and check it out. I think I might have as well. He might be in the process of it, so yeah, go and check those dudes out. Definitely 2 very talented Draft League players, so definitely would recommend that. And yeah, this is gonna be a very long video, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I know this took a bit of a while to record, but yeah, figured I'd be bringing you guys this, as there were a couple of good games in there. So that's gonna be it today. Hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a like if you did, and yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the tournament in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys next time.